Think of a basic wooden block tower. It starts stable. Keep adding pieces without a wider base, and eventually it collapses entirely. That exact dynamic applies to growing businesses scaling on manual spreadsheets. For 10 employees and a single product line, Excel is reliable. Over time, the tool that got you off the ground becomes the specific constraint holding you back. Graphing company growth against operational drag reveals workers spend 8 hours weekly on spreadsheet maintenance, burying $10,000 yearly per employee. Manual updates introduce risk. 94% of spreadsheets contain errors. The error margin quietly expands, propagating outward into downstream choices. By the time someone notices a metric feels off, you have already made critical operational choices based on flawed math. This creates decision latency, the dangerous gap between when a problem starts happening on the floor and when leadership actually sees it on paper. The financial drain of spreadsheets is the competitive advantage you bleed away by reacting to market shifts weeks later than competitors who automate their reporting. The natural reaction to this spreadsheet chaos is to sign a contract for a shiny new business intelligence tool, expecting instant clarity. Here's how reactionary purchases play out. You get a massive spike in excitement during month 1. By month 5, enthusiasm flatlines completely. Data quality problems surface, no one trusts the numbers, and the team quietly reverts to their old spreadsheets. Organizations fail here because they try to solve a broken communication workflow with a technology purchase. They start with vendor demos and completely ignore the underlying data flaws. Speed without clear context is simply faster noise. Stanford research confirms that human narratives are 22 times more memorable than raw statistics. You have to turn the numbers into stories your team can actually understand. Buying software without fixing the foundational workflow produces expensive waste. Escaping decision latency requires treating the instant gratification of a vendor purchase for a disciplined 90-day sequenced plan. This chart outlines the 90-day roadmap. We begin with Phase 1, diagnose before you build. For the first 30 days, you do not touch a single dashboard or run a single vendor demo. Instead, you get your departments together to standardize your metrics in writing. If sales and accounting operate with conflicting definitions of revenue or active customer, any dashboard you eventually build will be immediately dismissed. You must also explicitly audit your data sources, document where every relevant dataset lives, and assess it for completeness and freshness before you attempt to connect it to an automated feed. This phase will cause organizational friction. To leadership eager for automated reporting, this foundational step feels like an irritating delay. Trading 30 days of speed for clear definitions and clean data is your absolute best safeguard against building beautiful reporting interfaces that nobody actually trusts. Software selection happens only in Phase 2, and the choice is dictated entirely by the strict requirements you uncovered during your data audit. This comparison matrix highlights the primary rule of tool selection. Choose software based on the technical limits of your least technical decision maker. You must sacrifice advanced enterprise features to guarantee daily adoption. Sophistication serves analysts. Simplicity serves the business. Once you select the tool, apply a strict rule of limitation. Connect only the 3 specific data sources required to answer your 3 most critical business questions. Leave other interesting data siloed for now. Connecting every available platform at launch creates scope creep, and scope creep is the #1 killer of implementation timelines. In Phase 2, simplicity and focus must relentlessly override the temptation to over-engineer. This discipline ensures a high-trust, on-time launch. Moving into Phase 3, you face a practical reality. A technically perfect dashboard is worthless if it isn't integrated into daily habits. This workflow decision tree shows the fastest way to drive adoption. Take a regular meeting that currently relies on a manual spreadsheet presentation and forcefully replace that spreadsheet with a live dashboard review. Expect temporary social friction as leaders learn to navigate the new format. But absorbing that friction permanently eliminates hours of manual meeting prep labor every single week. You must also format the data specifically for the person consuming it, an audio briefing for the traveling sales manager, and a direct email scorecard for the CEO. By translating numbers into accessible formats right where people work, you transform a rigid IT project into a democratized data culture. Look at this before and after scorecard. This represents the day 90 success check, the exact moment you objectively measure the new system against your original goals. You want to see a weekly sales report drop from 4 hours to 20 minutes with 0 manual data exports. Organizations that maintain this discipline report a 60 to 80% reduction in manual reporting labor. They detect cost increases and margin erosion weeks earlier than they could through traditional monthly cycles. Match your tool to your team's reality. Highly technical teams require the analytical depth of Tableau or Power BI. Non-technical teams will fail with those complex tools and must choose Metabase or Zoho for self-service adoption. The competitor pulling a complex diagnostic report in 4 minutes didn't buy better software. They simply reached a point where the cost of living in spreadsheets outweighed the cost of change. Decision latency compounds against you every month you delay. Escaping it requires accepting the strict discipline of a sequenced execution plan, because ultimate speed is always a byproduct of careful preparation.